I use Linux, I'll continue to use Linux, and every single day, I am happier and happier that I made that switch. Over here in Linux land, there are certainly things that don't work. Don't get it twisted. But most of the time when that's the case, it's not because someone malicious made it so. It's because nobody wanted to implement that feature yet. It broke at some point and nobody has gotten around to fixing it. But with most things being open source, with enough time and with enough effort, you could go and fix it yourself. You don't have to wait for somebody else to go and do something. You don't have to wait for a big company to fix your problem for you, or even begin to care about the problem. But this is not so much the case on Microsoft Windows. If Microsoft decides, hey, you don't want this feature, you don't need this feature, you don't have the feature anymore. Now, maybe there are workarounds, maybe there are ways to bring it back, but if there's not, well, hey, sucks to be you. And for a completely unfathomable reason, I don't know why this appears to be their goal, Microsoft has the goal of pissing off enthusiast users as much as possible. The normies, they'll eat shit and they will thank you for it. But the enthusiasts, the people that build computers, the people that understand what an operating system is, understand that, hey, this Linux thing, maybe it's worth trying at some point. These are the people that you can actually lose. So in the recent announcing Windows 11 Insider Preview build 26200.5516 dev channel, this is what happens when you let corporate name your updates. Anyway, in this recent post, most of it is just normal Microsoft Windows garbage. Hey, look, new Copilot PC features, no one cares. Under the section Other is what we care about. Where did it go? Here. We're removing the bypass nro.cmd script from the build to enhance security and user experience of Windows 11. This change ensures that all users exit setup with internet connectivity and a Microsoft account. Now, on the surface, that sounds fine. It sounds like a good thing. This clearly seems to be some sort of negative thing you can run during the setup process that could potentially break something. What you're breaking is something that a lot of people actually don't want on their system. Now, for anyone who doesn't really follow Windows 11 and doesn't have any idea what that is doing, what's happening here? Well, this command would allow you to skip the required internet connection and creation or login of a Microsoft account on your Windows 11 system, allowing you to get this, operate a local account on your operating system. This is a bypass to allow you to have a local account on your operating system. A completely standard feature on Linux and a completely standard feature on Windows, at least when I was growing up. But nowadays, not so much. They really want you to always be logged into a Microsoft account. Now, whilst the command itself was removed, the command wasn't actually a command. The command was a batch file for a separate set of commands, and that functionality still exists in Windows 11. You just have to now write it out manually. So nothing was actually changed here in the baseline of what you can do during the installer. It's just been made slightly more inconvenient for those people who were making use of the functionality before, which makes the explanation make way less sense. Again, they said to enhance security and user experience on Windows 11. I can understand the user experience part, because from their perspective, they're saying, oh, if you run this, you could not have an internet connection, you get into Windows, and oh, you have no internet connection now. Oh my god, what are you gonna do? fine. It's a stupid explanation, but fine. But the enhanced security part, unless the argument is that being logged into a Windows account, being logged into a Microsoft account increases your security, which I don't think it does, even from like a weird mental gymnastics Microsoft perspective. But anybody who might be like a malicious user or a hacker, if they actually wanted to exploit this, the functionality is still there. So they can't just run the command like they did before, but they can just run this instead and they could do the same thing. The only thing I can possibly think of is they want to add some more confusion into the installation process so that people who might be a more enthusiast user, they hear about a way that you can circumvent having a Microsoft account. You can circumvent the need for an internet connection. They try to run the command, the old command people were using, and it doesn't work, because some forum, some website had some outdated information. So instead of then going and actually, finding the correct solution, they give up and just go through the regular installation process because, it just doesn't work anymore. Hey, look, now we have one more person logged in when they installed Windows. That is like the only possible thing I can think of for why you would ever do this, because nothing else makes any sense to me. And I guess if you have more people installed, then, I don't know, they have like the Microsoft account there, so you can very easily serve them ads for things like OneDrive, and because they're already logged in, there's a lot less friction in getting them to purchase it, and you can very easily harvest their data, because if they're logged in, you can use that as like a, get out of jail free card. You agreed to share your data because you logged in. Like, I guess that makes sense. Like, Microsoft is never going to put out a statement about why they did this. Their only explanation is ensuring all users exit setup with internet connectivity in a Microsoft account because of security and user experience, which doesn't make any sense to me because you can still do the same thing. If you can think of a good explanation, I would love to know. Please do let me know in the comment section down below. Now, whilst this command was a popular method for bypassing the need to have a Microsoft account during the setup, it certainly wasn't and isn't the only one that still works. Emphasis on current, because I have no idea if they plan to phase out these at some point in the future. One of them that's been making the rounds is this right here. Press Shift F10 to bring up the CMD, and then run start ms-cxh local only. And then that is going to let you go and make an account in the system and just go through the rest of the process without needing to go and make a Microsoft account. And eventually, you'll land on the Windows 11 desktop and you'll be good to go. Do note, all of the changes I've been talking about are only relevant for Home and Pro editions. These are the regular consumer editions that you're going to be running on your system. Most people just go for Pro because why not go for Pro? You're not paying for it anyway, so you might as well go for the better one. When we are talking about Education, Enterprise, IoT, and the LTSC editions, these still have the option to skip the internet connection, and this person would recommend you go and install one of those editions instead. The only issue there is, for most of these, Microsoft keeps a lot tighter of a grip on them, and you can find them, don't get me wrong. It just takes a little bit more effort to do so. It's just for the regular user, the intention is you're going to use Home or Pro, so they don't really make the others as easily accessible, as easily marketable. In some cases, like Education, they are directly behind a, hey, get a quote from us, we're going to charge you money to use it because this is made for a school setting. And of course, this removal of being able to easily set up a system is not something that would ever fly in an education setting or a business setting, because you need the ability to easily set up a lot of systems rather than doing them one by one manually. If that was removed for those, like, it just makes managing a corporate network and education network entirely impossible. But if you're a regular home user, you're only setting up one system, maybe two, maybe three, but that's probably the max of it. And hey, if you suck a little bit, that's fine. They're willing to let you suck. Now, the other method isn't exactly intended for this approach, but it still kind of works. So a lot of people realized, if you don't have the necessary network drivers after the installation, aren't you screwed? Like, you just can't go through the installation part. Well, there is a way to get around it, and that is through what is known as the audit mode. Audit mode is kind of like live booting on a Linux system, where you can just use it as if that system is fully installed. The difference is your drives are going to be mounted, so you can actually go and install Windows updates, install drivers, install everything you need, and then go through the rest of the installation process, and yeah, pretty much be good. Now, the thing about audit mode is what it does is put you temporarily into the normally locked admin account. And what can an admin account do? Well, it can make another account. That account being a local account and circumvent the Microsoft account requirement. Now, here's the thing. Even though there are people saying, oh, I'm just going to use Windows 10 forever, I'm never going to switch to Windows 11. I remember those exact same comments back in Windows 7. You're eventually going to switch. Even though there are people saying, oh, well, when SteamOS is available on the desktop, I'm going to swap to SteamOS, which isn't going to solve anything. You could just use Bazite today, and people suggest it constantly. People are like, no, I want SteamOS. Give me SteamOS. I don't want Bazite, even though it's 100% the same thing, 99.9% the same thing. I don't want that. I want SteamOS. Linux is here, right? Like, you could actually try it. But even though people are going to say, I'm going to try Linux, I'm going to give it a shot, maybe somebody will, but the majority of people are going to keep eating shit because Microsoft knows how much you love it. For the normies, I understand. But if you're a PC builder, if you're a tech enthusiast, why do you keep putting up with this? Why don't you try something new? Why don't you actually vote with your wallet? I'll just never understand, right? Like, I get it, businesses, they have to use Windows. I get it if you actually need some piece of software on Windows. I even get it if you have a secondary install because you want to play, like, one game with your friends. But for everything else, just try out Linux. Just see what it's like, and you'll realize it's actually fine, right? Like, Windows isn't good either. The baseline isn't very high at this point. But what are your thoughts? Let me know them down below. I know most people here are already Linux users and want to clown on Windows people, but if you know someone who uses Windows who just refuses to try Linux, who's maybe, you know what? Here's another one. Let me know if there's anyone in your life who has considered trying Linux, but has never actually done it. Let me know about that. Anyway, if you liked the video, go like the video. If you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out my Patreon, subscribe, Silly Bearer Pay, linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and I will never understand the mind of the Windows user. Something like this.